What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is going to be a little bit different than normally with what I do in terms of my anniversary movie reviews. So this time around, I'm going to be talking about two films. Two films that came out in 2014 that have a 10-year anniversary. And these two films are not only just turning 10, but they are two films that face off in the Academy Awards, and they were rivals. And that is Birdman versus Boyhood. So my thoughts have changed on these two films. Let's wind the clocks back on my thoughts of these two films. So, in 2014, I saw Boyhood. Summer of 2014 was a time in my life that was a transition. I graduated from high school and I was heading into college. So when this film came out in late summer, it was a movie that came out at the right place, at the right moment, in my life, because this is a film that follows Mason, who in the film, over the course of 12 years, we see him go from the age of 6 to the age of 18, and then the end of the film is him going off to college. So, of course, I can relate to this film in 2014. So it was one of those films that it's a slice of life coming of age approach, and I was just able to really latch on to the main character as well as everything that was happening to him. And not only did I find it relatable, but I just was entertained and I loved the film as a whole. It was a film that not only did I give it a 5 out of 5 rating, but I also claimed it as my favorite film of 2014, which is saying something when you have 2014 being a year with so many great films. You have John Wick, you have Nightcrawler, you have Foxcatcher, you have Grand Budapest Hotel, you have Gone Girl, Imitation Game, Theory of Everything, although I think that's just good, Selma. You have so many other films that were so great. And again, I know I'm missing some films that came out in 2014, but so many great films that came out this year. And this was my favorite film of said year. Now, when the Academy Awards came, it was one of those things where this film did get a lot of nominations in the right categories too. It got some acting nominations, screenplay, and then of course, director and picture. It was a film that was also, from what I recollect, that was the front runner for Best Picture, and I thought I had it in the bag. Like, to be honest, it was just a film that I was like, okay, it was ambitious. It was really able to capture a moment in time. Well, several moments at times, because again, it takes place over the course of 12 years and was filmed over those 12 years using the same actors for those characters. It's incredible that they were able to do that. But Birdman came out the same year. Birdman, or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, is a film that one would think that because I'm saying Boyhood versus Birdman that I'm not a fan of these two. I was. In 2014, I did love both films. This film did make my top 10 list of 2014. It was a film that I loved. I saw it twice in theaters, and I saw multiple times throughout the 2010s. And as you can see, I also own it on physical media Blu-ray. So it's a film that it wasn't like I hated. I loved it. I loved the ambitious camera work, making it look like all these long takes are one long take in fact, and although it is actually many long takes spliced together to make it look like that. And it is very convincing. 10 years later, it's very convincing and it's effective. I love the score. It's very upbeat. It matches the pacing. And it's a film that has gotten better over time. I've liked it even more, and I love the performances. I love the storytelling. I think that it is incredible. And we will talk about the ending of these two films in a little bit. But even though I love this film so much, when this lost Best Picture to this, I was very upset. I remember that when it lost Best Picture, when Boyhood lost Best Picture to Birdman, I remember ranting to my family about it, and then I also wrote an article at my college, because I was part of the college newspaper. I wrote an article about how much of an upset it was that Boyhood lost one Best Picture, and also how upset I was that occurred, and how I don't think Birdman should have won Best Picture. Here's the thing. All these years later, especially after rewatching both of these films last night, I'm very happy that Birdman, or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, won Best Picture. All these years later, I do think that this was the right choice, even though it's, all these years later, still not my favorite film of 2014. 2014 was a film that my two favorites as of filming this video, which is March of 2024, as of filming this video, Gone Girl and then Grand Budapest Hotel are my two favorite films of 2014. Grand Budapest Hotel was nominated for Best Picture, but there wasn't a snowball chance in hell that it would win Best Picture. So I will say that being said, I am happy that Birdman won Best Picture. And the reason being is because I feel as though, even though I still love Boyhood, I think that Birdman is just a film that over the course of time has aged much, much better. Boyhood is a film that upon rewatching, it's not a perfect film the way that I once viewed it. In fact, it's a film that's not even in my top 5 of 2014, but it is still in my top 10. I do think it is a great film. However, I do think that the last about 5 minutes or so, I would say, could have been cut. Like when Mason goes in the car and he drives off to college, I think that that's when they should have cut the film. It was a perfect ending. The soundtrack matched, his mindset. It was great. It was also ambiguous as to what was going to happen. And then we just see, the last 5-10 minutes, and it's up, it's not really as much up for interpretation. It's like, okay, this is what's happening. And don't get me wrong, the last 5-10 minutes I do like, but I just don't think it's quite as strong as everything that came before. That being said, I still think the acting is great. I do like the soundtrack. I do love the ambitious storytelling. The slice of life coming of age approach is also something that really works still. I also love the humor. Ethan Hawke is still incredible in this film. Patricia Arquette. It's just an overall very, very well put together film. I still think it's great. But again, it is not the perfect film that I once thought that it was a decade ago. But still, I will give Boyhood a... And next up, let's talk about Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This is a film that when I first saw it, I think I gave it, was it a 4.5 or a 4.75? I forget. I'll have to go back to my Facebook review. But either way, this is a film that I thought was great, but now I think it's a masterpiece. I think that it is perfect. There's not a single thing that I would change about it. The performances are incredible. The storytelling's perfect. The tone, the pitch of the different tones is incredible, like how it's able to go back and forth between drama and comedy in an effortless way. I also think the pacing is just incredible. It moves so well. Acting is great, score is great, it really matches the pacing and the tone. I also think that the ending gets better and better. Like the last 2 viewings especially, I've just really embraced the ending, and I think that it is so good. It's an ending that I've always liked, but again, it just gets better with each viewing. I think that it is a film that truly does get better with age. I love the directing. It's just an overall incredibly made film. One of my favorite films of all time. And that's why for me, Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, I personally will be giving a... Yeah, guys, that's my thoughts, updated thoughts of Boyhood versus Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. In my opinion, both of these films are 100% worth your time. It's interesting how things do change over the course of time. And I feel like that's something that not as many critics acknowledge, but I always try to acknowledge that your opinions do change. Like, you're not always going to think something's great. You're not always going to think something's a masterpiece. And there are going to be a lot of times where you're going to think something was maybe okay, but upon second, third, or fourth viewing, you might think that it is going from okay to great. It happens. There's so many factors that go into a film, as well as, age. Just, again, one of those things that, as an 18-year-old, Boyhood hit a lot harder than Birdman. But now, all these years later, a decade later, I might add, I still love Boyhood. But Birdman, I just find so much more effective, especially how, I forgot to add, it was critiquing the superhero genre a decade ago. And all these years later, it's aged so gracefully because it is one of those things where so many people are burnt out by the superhero genre, as well as just how blockbuster filmmaking, it's something that does have its place for sure, but how sometimes people are more well known for that than their roles that they might look at as more important. And I just think that that also is so meta at the same time, because if you think about it, Michael Keaton has done so many roles. Birdman and Spotlight, which he did back-to-back, I might add, in 2014 and 2015, those are the films that when I think of him, those are the films I immediately gravitate towards. But I know for a lot of other people, if I say Michael Keaton, they're like, oh, Spider-Man, No Way Home, or Far From It, whichever. I get those two confused. Or they're like, oh, Batman. That's just how it is. So I just think that this film has aged so well. And again, I would highly recommend you watch it. So again, watch both of these films. And I'm very curious. These two films, they faced off against each other. They were the two films that it was like, oh, which is going to win Best Picture, Boyhood or Birdman? Which film would you have chosen at the 2014 Academy Awards? Let me know in the comment section below, as well as your favorite film of 2014. And as always, guys, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, follow me on Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.